see this thing. This chapter we have already started in class, and I will be just giving you a recap. That's what actually we have done. We have covered the electrostatics, the charge and its types, the properties of charge, namely conservation of charge, quantization of charge, its additive nature, and then we have studied this thing, the charge is relativistically invariant. It does not depend on speed. After that, we have also found out the Coulomb's law, which is the force between the 2 point charges which are at a distance r from each other. It can be given as F is equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R square, where K is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, and when we solve this thing out, we'll be getting a value 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. This epsilon naught is a very special quantity that depends on the medium. It is actually the property of the medium. The value of this epsilon naught for vacuum is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. So this value gets changed if you are placing the charges if in some other medium rather than vacuum. If you are placing it in some other medium, then in place of epsilon naught, we have to write epsilon. That will be the permittivity of that particular medium in which the charge were placed. Using this formula, we can define 1 Coulomb. If I can place Q1 equal to 1 Coulomb and Q2 is equal to 1 Coulomb, then the formula for force F becomes K multiplied by 1 into 1 upon 1 square. The value of K is 9 into 10 to the power 9. So we'll be getting it F is equal to 9 into 10 to the power 9 multiplied by 1 square upon 1 square. The value of F comes out to be 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. So in this manner, we can define 1 Coulomb that it is the quantity of charge which when placed at a distance of 1 meter in air or vacuum from an equal and similar charge, it will experience a repulsive force of 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. So that much quantity of charge, if it is placed at a distance of 1 meter from the equal and similar charge, then the force of repulsion between the two charges will be 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton, and it's 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton, and this force, the charges that we have placed actually will be 1 Coulomb. Further, we are studying a very special quantity, that is dielectric constant or relative permittivity. So when we are using the term dielectric constant, then it will be represented by K. And when we'll be using the term relative permittivity, then it will be represented by epsilon R. This R is in subscript. So now just define this thing, that what this quantity relative permittivity or dielectric constant actually means. If the charges are placed in some other medium other than the vacuum, and the permittivity of the medium is epsilon, then the magnitude of the force between them can be written as force between the charges in the medium represented by Fm is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon multiplied by Q1 into Q2 upon R square. So now when the charges are placed in the medium, then this epsilon naught, it gets changed by epsilon. That is the permittivity of the medium. So we are having this formula, and I have marked it as equation number 2. Now, when we divide equation number 1, this is our equation number 1, F is equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R square when the charges are placed in vacuum, to equation number 2, when the charges are placed in a medium, then we will get this quantity, that F upon Fm, the force between the charges when they are placed in vacuum to the force between the charges when they are placed in some medium, it has come out to be epsilon upon epsilon naught, where epsilon is the permittivity of the medium and epsilon naught is the permittivity of the vacuum. This ratio is known as relative permittivity. This ratio is also known as the dielectric constant of the medium. So when we talk about the term dielectric constant, we'll be using the notation K. And when we are talking about the relative permittivity, then we have to use the notation epsilon R. This ratio epsilon upon epsilon naught is equal to 1 for vacuum. Relativity, this epsilon R is equal to See this thing. This is the force between the charges when they are placed in medium. Fm is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon q1 q2 upon r square. And the first equation that we have derived, this is equal to F equal to k q1 q2 upon r square, where k is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is the force between the charges when the charges are placed in the vacuum. All right.
Yes, thank you, sir.
So now when we divide these two equations, we'll be having this quantity, that the force between the charges when they are placed in vacuum to the force between the charges when they are placed in medium, it has come out to be epsilon upon epsilon naught, and that is equal to epsilon r, known as the relative permittivity. So for vacuum, the value of this relative permittivity is 1. All right. And the relative permittivity and the permittivity of the medium, they are related like this, that permittivity of the medium is equal to relative permittivity multiplied by epsilon naught. That is the permittivity of the vacuum. So just cross multiply it, you will be having this equation. The permittivity of the medium is equal to the permittivity of the vacuum multiplied by permittivity or relative permittivity or the dielectric constant. So this dielectric constant, it do not have a unit actually, because it is the ratio of the similar quantities. When we are having something that is the ratio of similar quantities, then that quantity remains dimensionless or unitless. That we know from our previous knowledge. Now, the next topic that we have to do is the vector form of Coulomb's law, that how we can write Coulomb's law in vector form. Since Coulomb's law, it tells us about the force between the 2 point charges which are separated by some distance, and we all know that force is a vector quantity which has both magnitude and direction, and that's why we have to express the force in the form of vector. So in order to express the force in the form of vector, what we have to do is that just consider that there are 2 point charges q1 and q2 which are separated by a distance r, and r12 is a vector directed from q1 to q2, and r21 is another vector which is directed from q2 to q1. So see this thing, this is q1 and q2, and the separation distance between them is r. r12 is a unit vector in the direction from 1 to 2, and r21 is a unit vector in a direction from 2 to 1. We all know this thing, that the unit vector, it has a magnitude 1. So when we need to express this force into vector form, just we need to do is that multiply its magnitude with some vector, and that vector should not change the magnitude of the force. So for that purpose, we have only a unit vector, because when we are multiplying this quantity with a unit vector, the value of this quantity remains same. The only thing that happens that it gets some direction. So the force exerted by charge 2 on charge 1, it is represented by notation F21. Vector F21, it gives the force exerted on charge Q2 by charge Q1. So here lies our charge Q2. It experiences a force on charge Q1. So this charge Q2 is equal sign of the charge Q1. So what it does, it will repel this one. So this is the direction of my force, that is F21. All right. So F21 is what? K Q1 Q2 upon R12 square. Why so? Because this Q2 charge is repelled by charge Q1. So we have to move from Q1 to Q2. That's why we are using vector R12, because we are moving in this direction. The force on charge Q2 by Q1 is in this direction. It will be in this direction, because Q1 wants that Q2 should be repelled from it. That's why we are moving from 1 to 2, and we have to take a vector that is from 1 to 2, that is unit vector 1 2, R12. So that's why we can write this thing. The force on 2 U21 is equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R12 square multiplied by a unit vector. And since we have multiplied it by unit vector, we can write it in vector notation. Similarly, the force on charge placed at 1 due to charge placed at 2. So this charge Q2, it wants that this Q1 should be repelled. So the direction of force F12, that is force on 1 due to charge 2, will be away from Q1 because there is a force of repulsion. Q2 wants that Q1 should be repelled. So this F12 is equal to KQ1 Q2 upon R21 square because we are moving from 2 to 1 and the unit vector will be R21. Since we are using the vector, we can easily write it in the vector form. And we know this thing that R12 and R21, they are the same unit vectors for a vector R, but the only thing is that they are opposite in direction. So we can easily write that R12 is negation of R21, or in place of this R21, I can write R12 with a negative sign. That's what I have written over here. So this, the force on 1 due to 2 is equal to KQ1 Q2 upon R21 square. In place of R21, I can write minus of R12 vector because both R12 and R21, they are having different directions which is opposite to each other. And after solving it, it becomes, the minus sign comes out, it becomes minus KQ1 Q2 upon R12 square upon multiplied by R12 unit vector. I can say this thing that this equation is very much similar to this equation, except the thing that it is having a minus sign. So both F12 vector and F21 vector are equal in magnitude to each other, but their direction is opposite. That's why vector F12 becomes minus of vector F21. And this suggests this thing that this Coulomb's law, it is in accordance with Newton's third law, that is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the force exerted by 1 on charge 2 is equal and opposite to the force exerted by charge 2 on charge 1. This is all about the vector notation of Coulomb's law. One more thing that we can do is in this equation, that is the force on 1 due to 2 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R21 square into R21. We can write it in this manner that this unit vector can be replaced by a vector divided by its magnitude. We all know this thing that a unit vector, we all know this, that a unit vector can be written as the vector divided by its magnitude. So in place of unit vector R21, we can write vector R12 divided by magnitude of R12. That's what we can do. So similarly, this force becomes force on 1 due to 2, it becomes 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 R21 square, and in place of this unit vector, I can write the vector R21 divided by its magnitude, that is vector R12 divided by its magnitude. And these two magnitudes, they will get multiplied, and we are having the force on 1 due to 2 is equal to K Q1 Q2 R12 vector divided by R12 cube. So this is one alternate expression for the notation of Coulomb's law in vector form. So this is how we can write it. But the approach to solve the questions will be a bit different, because when we'll be solving up the vectors, we know only two things, how to add them, either by the triangle law or by the parallelogram law. So that we'll be doing it later on. Now, the next topic that we have to cover is the forces between the multiple charges. Since we people only have studied this thing, that only two charges, when they are placed by placed apart a certain distance, then we can apply the Coulomb's law and we can easily find it out that what is the force experienced by one charge due to the another charge. But what is the case when a number of charges are present? Then if we need to find the force on a single charge, how are we going to find it? So that has been given to us by the principle of superposition. So what the superposition principle actually tells is this thing, that according to the principle of superposition, the force on any charge due to a number of other charges is the vector sum of all the forces on that charge due to the other charges taken one at a time. This is known as the principle of superposition. Say, for example, we are having three charges present over here. That is Q1, Q2, and Q3. What we need to do, we need to find a force on this Q1 due to the other two charges. So what we need to do is that first find the force on this Q1 due to Q2, that is F12, force on 1 due to charge presented 2. And then we need to find the force on this charge Q1 due to the charge Q3, that is for F1, 3. So force on 1 due to charge presented 3. So these two are vectors, and we know this thing that we cannot add a vector without using the vectors law. We have to add them using the vectors law only. So this is one vector over here, that is F12, and this is another vector over here, that is F13. In order to find the resultant, I need to apply the parallelogram law. And when I'll be using the parallelogram law for these two vectors, I'll be having a force, that is F1, which is the net force on charge Q1 due to all the other charges present over here. So this is the principle of superposition. Let's try to solve it. The force on charge 1 due to charge 2, it can be calculated and written in vector form, because we know how to write the Coulomb's law in vector form. That is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R12 square multiplied by unit vector R12. Similarly, the force on charge Q1 due to Q3 is F13. It is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R13 square multiplied by unit vector R13. And so on. If n number of charges are present, then we will be finding the individual forces on a given charge due to the n number of charges, and then we have to do the vector sum of all the forces on the given charge. The total force F1 on charge Q1 due to all the other charges is nothing, but it is the force on charge 1 due to charge 2, force on charge 1 due to charge 3, force on charge 1 due to charge 4, and so on. It's force on charge 1 due to the nth charge. But remember this thing, we cannot add them directly. We have to add them by using the laws of vector. We can only add them with the help of vector sum. That is the parallelogram law. So in parallelogram law, we can add two vectors at a time. So just add these two vectors, get one resultant, add that resultant with this one, then again get a resultant and add it with the next four, and so on. Now it can further be expressed as F12 is Q1 Q2 upon R21 square multiplied by R21 vector plus Q1 Q3 R31 vector multiplied by R31 unit vector, and Q1 Q4 is R41 square multiplied by R41 unit vector, and so on. This Q1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught can be taken out, and this further other things can be put under a summation with Qi, because this Q1 is constant, that's why we have taken out. Q2, Q3, Q4, and up to Qn it's been changing. I can write it as Qi. And also this R21, R31, R41, only this thing, 3, 4, 2, they are changing. So I can put it over here as I. And this I is varying from 2 to n. That's why it can be written as in the form of summation. So this is the superposition principle for n number of charges which are experiencing a force on a given charge. Now, the approach to solve the question is a bit different one that you people have to go through actually. So let's consider some example and try to solve out the force on a given charge due to the presence of other charges. In this question, we can see this thing. There are two small equal and unlike charges, and they are placed at A and B. So at A, a charge of 2 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb, and at charge B, a charge of at point B, charge of minus 2 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb is present. And they both are 6 centimeters from each other. We need to find the force on a charge that is present at P, and the value of that charge is 1 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb. This point P is actually 4 centimeters on the perpendicular bisector of AB. So this AB, the perpendicular bisector for AB is PX, and the distance of this X and P is 4 centimeters. Since it is the perpendicular bisector, this AX is equal to XB is equal to 3 centimeters. Now, let's take this angle as theta. When this angle is theta, the angle BPR is also theta, and by simple geometry, we can also show this thing that angle FPR is also theta. First, we need to find the distance AP, because when I'll be finding out the force on the charge present at P due to the charge present at A, then I will be requiring this distance. So this distance I can easily find out by using Pythagoras theorem, and it comes out to be 5 centimeter or 5 into 10 to the power minus 2 meter. Now, the force experienced by the charge placed at P due to the charge placed at A, both are having plus sign. So this charge Q1, it will be repelling this charge which is present at P. So it will be repelling, the force will be along the direction AP in this side, along F. The force F, that is the force on P due to the charge present at A, it will be repelling and it will be moving along this direction. So we can easily calculate it. F is equal to K Q1 Q3 upon R square. Q1 is this thing, Q3 is this thing, and R is the square of 5. We have to convert it in meter, that is 5 into 10 to the power minus 2 meter. It comes out to be 7.2 into 10 to the power minus 4 Newton along AP. So it is along AP, we are moving from A to P. Now we need to find the force on the charge present at P due to the charge present at D. Since they are having equal and opposite signs, the charge which is present at B, it will be attracting the charge which is present at P. So the direction of force on the charge present at P due to the charge present at B will be from P to B, since they are having opposite directions. That's why it will be attracting it. We can easily find out the magnitude, and that magnitude will be K Q2 Q3 upon R square, and it will be of the same magnitude as far as I am concerned, because since these two charges, they are having the same magnitude. Remember one thing, we need not be using this minus sign in order to calculate the magnitude of the force, because this minus sign is telling us the direction only. Direction of the force on the charge present at P is the charge present at B. So that will be also 7.2 into 10 to the power minus 4, but this time it will be along P to B, that is PB. We are having two forces, one is along AP and one is along PB. We can easily find out their magnitude if we will be knowing this angle between them by using the parallelogram law, but this angle is not given to us. So what we'll be doing, we'll be resolving this thing. This force can be resolved into two parts. One is along the horizontal direction and other one is along the vertical direction. So along the horizontal direction, it will come out to be F cos theta. Similarly, this force can also be resolved into two parts. One is along the horizontal direction, other one is along the vertical direction. So along the horizontal direction, we are having F cos theta again. So the resultant force will come out to be 2F cos theta. The value of F we know 7.2 into 10 to the power minus 4 Newton, and theta we can easily calculate out from this triangle, that is dx upon bp is your cos theta. The value is 3/5. Use it over here, you will be getting the value of the resultant, that comes out to be 8.64 into 10 to the power minus 4 Newton. Let's solve one more numerical. See this thing, we are having 4 charges of equal magnitude and they are placed at 4 corners of squares ABCD, and the length of the square is A. We need to find the magnitude of the force on the charge present at B. So at all the corners, we are having the same charge, and the distance between the charge present at A to the charge present at B is A. Similarly, the distance between the charge present at C to the charge present at D is A. The dimension, the side of the square is A. And the distance between the charge present at B to the charge present at D is root 2A, because the diagonal of a square is root 2 times its side. Now, we need to find the force on the charge present at B due to the other 3 charges. So what it will be, the force on charge present at B is equal to the vector sum of the force on B due to the charge present at A, that is FBA, plus the force on charge present at B to the charge present at C, that is FBC, and the force on charge present at D to the charge present at force on B due to the charge present at D. So we need to calculate these three forces and then we have to make a vector sum of them. So let's try to solve it out, because we can only solve two vectors at a time in the case of vectors using the parallelogram law. So we are solving FBA and FBC first, and let they are equal to F1. So FBA, what is FBA? The force on B due to the charge present at A. So this will be in this direction. They both are having same sign. A will try to repel the charge present at B. Now that force, yes, Nivedita. Yes, Nivedita. What do you want to ask? You can write it in the chat box. Yeah.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead. Yeah, what do you want to ask? Go ahead.
Sir, the last example you told and this example as well, I'm not able to understand. So please explain it in Hindi.
Yeah. Surely. I'll be explaining it to you. I'll be giving you this video also, and the PDF will also be shared to you also. Okay. So just try to be with the question. So if you will be understanding this one, you can easily get the previous one. All right.
Yes, sir.
See this thing. We need to find the force on charge B due to charge A. So the charge present at A, it will try to repel the charge present at B in this direction, moving away from in the direction A to B. This is the direction of FBA. The charge present at C will try to repel the charge present at B in this direction, away from it. That is FBC. We know this thing that FBA is what? We're using the Coulomb's law, K Q1 Q2 upon R square. Since both are having same charge, Q and Q1 is equal to Q2 is equal to Q. So F is equal to K Q square upon A square. And this FBC will also be same, K Q square upon A square. Using the vector sum, since they are having an angle 90 degree between them and cos 90 is 0, we can easily find their magnitude, A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. So A is what? KQ square upon A square, that is FBA. FBC is KQ square upon A square, and we need to take the root of that. We'll be getting a value root 2 KQ square upon A square, and the direction of this is along BD, because they both are having the same force, and when you'll calculate the direction, it will come along BD. Now, the force on charge B due to the charge present at D, it will be in this direction. Since they are having the same sign, the charge present at D will try to repel the charge present at B. So it will be along BD only. So that we can easily find out, K Q square upon square of root 2A. This length DB is root 2A, and it comes out to be K Q square upon 2A square. Now the force FBD as well as this F1, the resultant of FB and FBC, they are along the same direction. And when they are in the same direction, we can easily add them up, because the angle between them is 180 degree, and adding them vectorly, you can easily be getting this question, this result. Try to solve it out, and still if you are having some problem, I'll be there to solve for you people. Now, just have a quick recap of what we have studied today. We have gone through the definition of Coulomb. We have also studied what the relative permittivity or the dielectric constant is. That is the ratio of the force in vacuum to the force in medium. Then we have learned this thing, that how to write the vector form of Coulomb's law and the principle of superposition. And based on this principle of superposition, we have tried to solve out some numericals. Now your homework is to solve out these things. You people can easily be solving out the example 1.6 and 1.7 of NCERT textbooks that lies on page number 16 and 17, as well as the exercise question 1.6 and one worksheet I have shared with you that are having question 3, 5, and 7. You need to solve those things out. Thank you very much, and stay at home. Please don't move here and there. follow the lockdown conditions, and I do hope that I'll be joining you soon for some other classes. Thank you very much.